Yule is the first pagan Sabbath, the first day of winter, and the common pagan New Year. Most usually, it falls on the 21st of December. This word has its etymological origin in Proto-Germanic word for festivity or celebration. It was first attested in Old Norse, where the noun Yule simply means midwinter season or midwinter celebration. The same goes with its Old English counterpart. There are also few descendants in other Germanic languages. A solar aspect. It is the first day of winter. Sun reaches its most southerly declination, which means that the Earth's north pole is tilted furthest, 23.5 degrees away from the Sun. In the exact moment of the winter solstice, the Sun is directly overhead the Tropic of Capricorn. Also, Sun's daily maximum elevation in the sky is at its lowest. It is the shortest day and the longest night of the year. Although forces of dark and chaos reach their height of power, it is also the moment of victory of the forces of light and cosmos, because every succeeding day will be a bit longer. Yule propels the wheel of the year. It represents catharsis and new beginnings. We celebrate the return of sun, light, and heat. A divine aspect. The mother goddess gives birth to a god. He is a newborn baby, or the child god who brings back hope and light. We say that the horned god is born, or the sun god, or simply the light is born. But from this day, God, as a very young and weak being, starts to grow and get stronger. Another life cycle has just begun. An agricultural aspect. After she gave birth to a child, Goddess is reposing. The earth is resting. Yule is a day in the middle of the agricultural season of resting. The snow covers all the soil, some animals are hibernating, while seeds underground are waiting for new growth. A mystery aspect. Hope is the basic mystery of Yule. As I have already pointed out, long ago, at the dawn of civilization, an ancient human was worried about the sun's decline on the horizon, which threatened with sun's disappearance in the eternal cold and darkness. After Yule, he had a reason to celebrate because the sun had begun to rise again. The light was born again. It did conquer death, but is still far from strength because many cold and dark days will have to pass until the coming of new spring. Yet hope is restored. That teaches us that even the most difficult life situations are never lost. Yule is a reminder of the rebirth that always comes after death. While all of nature is sleeping, by watching evergreen trees, mistletoe and holly, we are reminded that there is no death. Life is eternal. The rise of life over death calls us for a spiritual awakening and creation of closer ties with Mother Nature. History of Yule. Since the early Neolithic, the winter solstice was considered as one of the most important days of the year. This is confirmed by numerous archaeological sites from which ancient folks observed the sky. These are usually megaliths placed in circles. Among the best known of them is the Gozek circle in eastern Germany, at least 7,000 years old. Watching from the center of the circle, the sun will be seen through the holes exactly during sunrise and sunset at the winter solstice. Other similar structures also indicate the importance of the solar cult. For example, Stonehenge in the southern England and Newgrange in the eastern Ireland, both older than 5,000 years. Ancient Babylonians were celebrating Zagmuk, the beginning of the year. The god named Marduk was battling with the primordial snake Tiamat for 12 days until he finally defeated it at winter solstice. Ancient Greeks, on the other hand, worshipped a titan Cronus, who is a son of Uranus and Gaia, or sky and earth, and also Zeus's father. Romans named him Saturn. Consequently, the festival in his honor was called Saturnalia, which was held from the 17th to the 23rd of December. Beside offering sacrifices to Saturn, usually suckling pigs, people were engaged in unbridled passion and fun, which actually is the function of large ceremonies at the time of a transition to a new year, amusement and merrymaking before the re-establishment of order and the beginning of a new cycle. But it was only in 274 AD when the Roman Emperor Aurelian established the cult of the unconquered sun, whose birth was celebrated on the 25th of December, the date which Christians later adopted for Christmas. This way, the cults of many solar deities have been integrated, like Indo-Iranian Mithra, Syrian Elagabalus, Semitic Baal, Greek Apollo or Helios, and some others. Germanic peoples were celebrating Yule as an important milestone. At first, the festival lasted for 3 days, starting with the Yule Eve, while later they were celebrating it for 12 days. They were toasting the gods. The first toast was drunk to Odin and victory in war, while the second one was offered to gods Njord and Freyja for an abundant harvest and peace. The most revered animals were sacrificed, usually horses or wild boars. In the middle of the temple, fire was lit. They were praising the northern wind, which is harsh and cold, but it also brings purity and renewal. The Anglo-Saxon corresponding festival was called the Night of the Mothers, Modranicht. They were worshipping divine mothers as collective female beings. The link is obvious. Mother Goddess gives birth to a child, a baby god. At the winter solstice, Slavic peoples also celebrated the birth of the sun god named Dabog or Dashbog. The feast was called Koljada in Russian or Koleda in Croatian, which is a loan word from Latin. Namely, the noun kalenda means the first day of a month. Koledars are well-wishers who roam the village streets, sing and dance, going from house to house with good wishes for the coming year. Even today, this custom, assimilated by Christians, is called koledovanje, which is basically a Slavic version of caroling. This custom symbolizes the sun's journey through the entire zodiac. In order to reach the village, koledars will first have to pass through some wet and muddy terrain that will depict suns rising from the underworld ruled by the dark god Veles. The Yule lore. Since this Sabbath occurs in the coldest part of the year, people have often celebrated it in their own homes. That is why we consider it to be a charming family holiday. It is a time when family gathers and feasts in the intimate atmosphere of peace and love. Pagans decorate their homes with evergreens, branches of pine, fir and spruce, holly, mistletoe and common ivy. We can also fill baskets with apples or plant wheat in small pots. That is a symbol of growth and harvest in the coming year. Kissing under the mistletoe is another pagan custom. Norse goddess Frigg took an oath from fire and water, all the metals, stones, sicknesses and poisons, plants and animals, that they would not hurt her son Balder, beloved by all the gods. But mischievous god Loki found out that she forgot to ask mistletoe, a tiny and forgotten plant. Later on, he used its poison and managed to kill Balder. Frigg was devastated and eventually decreed that mistletoe would never again be used as a weapon and that she would place a kiss on anyone who passed under it. So, when we kiss under the mistletoe, we wish a successful and joyful new year. The celebration starts on Yule Eve. It is the most important night of the year, the last in which sun falls toward chaos. In order to get involved in this important natural cycle, pagan families will hold Yule Eve vigil, keeping the hearth fire. Thus, they are symbolically helping the sun to defeat darkness, cold, and chaos. As they would stay awake, family members would sing traditional songs, tell fairy tales, myths, and legends. They would eagerly await the new day. At dawn, the sun won, God is born, earth is saved. Yule log is a thick piece of wood cut from a young tree, brought into the house and burnt on a hearth on Yule Eve. It is a common European pagan custom. Slavic people call it badnjak or budnik, which means log. The Anglo-Saxon version of the same custom is called ashen faggot, which is a large bundle of ash sticks. Basically, the lit log symbolizes sun's rebirth from the mother goddess's womb. But fire has an important additional symbolism. In that sacred moment, it purifies the space and chases negative energy and entities. The log is usually cut from an oak, ash, pine, or fir. As we watch the lit log, we imagine and feel the warm rays of sun. We feel peaceful and draw comfort knowing that the new spring will come again very soon. While it burns, we can pour some beer or cider over the log or sprinkle it with flour. Every year, before it burns out, we shall pull a small piece of it from the fire and keep it until next year, when we shall use it to ignite a hearth fire. This continuity of fire symbolizes the rebirth of the same old sun. Yule tree is an evergreen tree placed in the house or the yard and decorated with fruits, candles, and various decorations. Primarily, it represents the world tree, Arbor Mundi. It is one of the most powerful symbols of all connectedness. Its top is the world where the thunder god dwells, Indra, Perun, Thor, Osiris. Its roots are the underground world of the Dark Lord, Vala, Veles, Hades, Pluto, while its trunk represents our world, Middle Earth. Its high canopy symbolizes our aspirations for a higher knowledge. Furthermore, evergreen is a symbol of eternity of life. Even in the deepest darkness, there are some plants that retain the life force. That power of nature gives us hope of victory in difficult times. Therefore, by decorating a Yule tree, we celebrate life itself. While the northern peoples were usually decorating the pine, fir, or spruce, Romans used to decorate laurel at Saturnalia. Decorating the Yule tree is a beautiful custom performed during the Yule Eve, which brings together the whole family. We can put decorative balls, candles, fruits, nuts, sweets, candy canes, baubles, snowflake images, sparkly and colorful objects, and so on. In the past, Norse pagans used to put even pieces of a roasted boar. On the top of the tree, we put the Yule pentagram, symbol of the 5 elements and the overall creation. The scene of a Yule tree with gifts beneath it is a true shrine of gods and forces of nature. Bonfires can also be lit on the Yule Eve. They are symbolically helping the sun to rise up. People are feeding the sun just as a woman would nurse her child. We imagine that we feed the sun with our fire. Therefore, sun gets stronger, and afterwards it will return the favor and bestow a warm year and blessings of yield upon us. People sing, dance, and rejoice around bonfires. They can also throw fruits, wheat, and other gifts in it, as a symbolical way of thanking nature for the food we get from earth. It is a very common custom to make wish and jump over the fire. Well-wishers will disguise themselves as servants of the Dark Lord, ruler of the underworld. They will pass through mud and come into village. Hosts will welcome and greet them and give children apples, sweet, and other presents. At Yule, pagans eat meat, walnuts, hazelnuts, roasted apples, cakes with apples and cinnamon, biscuits and sweets. They drink beer, cider, mead, and ginger tea. Norse pagans would sacrifice the biggest boar, also known as the sonargöltur, the sun boar, on whose bristles solemn vows were made. That is where the custom of Christmas ham comes from. A Christian interpretation of Yule. During the spread of Christianity throughout Europe, since the early Middle Ages, the Church tried at first to ban all pagan customs. But when the Church leaders were faced with huge popularity of those customs, they simply converted them into Christian holidays. Yule is perhaps the most vivid example. The Church took over the whole concept of this pagan festival and turned it into Christmas, or the birthday of Jesus Christ, which is observed on the 25th of December, on the exact date of the birthday of the unconquered Son, celebrated by pagan Romans. The problem is that Jesus, even if he was a real person, could have hardly been born in the cold December. And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. We don't know the exact moment when the Church established the 25th of December as a date of Christmas, but its earliest reference can be found in the chronography of 354, which is a 4th century illuminated manuscript produced for some wealthy Roman Christian. However, it is assumed that the date of Christmas was assigned during the pontificate of Pope Julius I in the 4th century. According to the Christian doctrine, Jesus Christ is the Savior of mankind because He sacrificed Himself, resurrected, and gave people the opportunity to gain eternal life. All that perfectly coincided with the original pagan myth. All corresponding pagan festivals gradually have been merged with Christmas, the birthday of the unconquered sun, and Saturnalia in the 4th century, Modranicht in the 7th, Kolyada in the 9th, and Yule in the beginning of the 11th century. Almost all Yule customs were taken over: Christmas Eve, midnight mass, exchanging gifts, decorating the Christmas tree, burning the log, singing Christmas carols, cooking ham, etc. Until the 17th century, Catholics were celebrating Christmas like pagans did Yule. They would sing, dance, rejoice, and even drink more than usual. All that led English Puritans even to ban Christmas in 1647, considering it a Catholic invention. The restoration of King Charles II in 1660 ended the ban, although Calvinist clergy still disapproved of Christmas celebration. Scottish Presbyterians abolished the observance of Christmas in 1640, claiming that it was superstition. It was not until 1958 that Christmas again became a public holiday. But there's more. As mentioned earlier, in Babylonian mythology, god Marduk was fighting with the snake Tiamat for 12 days prior to the winter solstice, while Norse pagans were celebrating Yule for 12 days, starting from the solstice. Even that was taken over to Christianity. So there is a period of 12 days before Christmas, from the St. Lucy's Day, which falls on the 13th of December, until Christmas, and the so-called Twelvetide, from Christmas until Epiphany, which falls on the 6th of January. By the way, Santa Claus is a legendary figure in the European folklore. He is a lovely grandpa wearing red clothes and having a long white beard. On the Yule Eve, flying reindeers will pull his sleigh, assisting him to bring gifts to children. He will enter dwelling through the chimney and leave presents under the Yule tree. Santa Claus was created in the image of the Norse god Odin, who is also known as Jolnir, the one who appears on Yule, and Langbardr, the long-bearded. In the time of great turning points, when chaos threatens with destruction, he gets off to the wild hunt, riding his 8-legged horse Sleipnir, followed by thousands and millions of angry warriors. It is an ancient Indo-European mythical image which represents the battle with the forces of chaos, aiming to establish the order once again. However, in the Middle Ages, Odin was replaced by a Christian bishop of Myra, Saint Nicholas, who lived in the 4th century. Being 73 years old, he was quite long-lived. There is a legend that he dropped some gold coins down the chimney to some poor man who couldn't afford a proper dowry for his 3 daughters. He died on the 6th of December 343, so Catholic Church observes him on that date. Therefore, Santa Claus is an unusual fusion of pagan and Christian folklore, which is why it doesn't truly belong to either of the two systems. And one more thing, the name Father Christmas dates back as far as 16th century in England.